Right. Again, good evening, each one of you, and then thanks for joining this session. So today we will start discussing about the services that we are going to cover during our session. Right. So this is what the first question that we have got yesterday. Okay, so before I pitch in, any questions from any one of you? Please feel free to ask.
Hi Shiva, this is Indrajit. As I have lectured yesterday, you mentioned the skills necessary to become a data engineer.
To become a data engineer. Okay, fine. Okay, so first let me cover the services that we are going to cover, and then I'll answer your question, Indrajit.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, guys? Anybody else? Okay, so if not, feel again, please feel free to ask. Right. See, the services that we are going to cover, I hope everyone are able to see my notepad here.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So we will start with Azure SQL Server. We will cover Azure SQL database. Now I'll not add the term Azure, guys. No, you can assume that we have the term Azure. So we are going to cover Azure Data Factory. So Databricks. Come on. In Databricks, we will cover PySpark. And we see, of course, PySpark is nothing but Python. And Databricks also supports Scala, R, and SQL. Right, guys. So either we can call it like that. And then we'll see what is Logic Apps. And then we'll see Synapse. And then we'll see data storage. Or, let's call it a storage account. In storage account, we are going to cover data lake generation 2, guys. Right? Data lake generation 2. So that means we also have a generation 1, which is blob storage, but generation 2 is latest and then the most advanced, and generation 2 comes with generation 1 capabilities as well at the same time. That's about it. And then we will also see Azure Data Studio, Azure Storage Explorer, right? And then we'll see GitHub, and then we will see services like Resource Group, and then tags. Yeah. So I'm just checking if I missed anything here. No, nothing is being missed here, guys. Right? So these are all the various different Azure services we are going to cover. Data Studio Explorer, yeah. So nothing is being missed here. Guys, I hope the people who have this question, I hope your question has been answered. Guys, any comments, any questions on this?
So small doubt, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Is this more convenient to understand for beginners?
Yes. Okay. So that's a good question, right? See, our sessions are for the people who are just starting on Azure Data Engineer, especially. Okay. So my sessions will help somebody to gain knowledge from the beginners level, and it will take up to intermediate level, basically, right? So these sessions are meant for the beginners. The answer is yes. Right. Guys, do we have anyone who is working on Data Factory or Bricks or any other service that we have on the screen? Of course, yesterday there was a friend who was saying that he is working on data lake, but other than that, okay. Okay, guys. So now the prerequisite is, right? The prerequisite to say having knowledge on the data is good enough to go, right? So that means how we can store data, how we can basically save a file, and how you can read it is good enough to go. The reason being, with respect to the databases, we are going to start with SQL Server. So that means we are going to spend some time on SQL also. But given, guys, we are not going to spend much of time on SQL Server, right? So maybe I'll take a day or two to spend on SQL, and then we'll move on Data Factory. So Data Factory is the service where we try to spend most of our time, right? Because this is a ETL tool. In Azure, it is called as ETL service. That's what we learned yesterday. Okay, so this is where we are going to spend most of our time. So guys, any other questions? Okay, so if not, yeah, good.
So in Python, what are all the topics or things to be covered in this course?
In Python, we are going to cover PySpark. See, we are not going to, to cover, Python basics here basically. See, Databricks comes with libraries. Okay, so we will make use of the libraries that are internal to the Databricks to develop our logics. What we are going to see on Databricks is I'm going to cover various different scenarios on the Databricks. Right?
So Python basic knowledge.
If you have basic knowledge, that is good enough. Or else I'll help you, understand the code and then so basically.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Right. Since I don't hear any other questions, so let me move on, guys. So what we are going to do now is we are going to get into the portal, that means the Azure portal, and then we will spend some time on the portal today. Okay, so let's get into the portal, guys. See, now you can notice to get into Azure, the URL is portal.azure.com. Right, guys? So that's the URL of Microsoft Azure. And even before that, how we can access the portal? Portal can be accessed via a browser. That can be Edge, that can be Chrome, or that can be Firefox, Safari, and then so on, basically. For our sessions, I get into our portal using Microsoft Edge, basically. I don't know, from the beginning, somehow, I'm using Edge. Somehow I used with that, basically. And there are no restrictions as such, guys. It's, based on your comfort, right? So based on your comfort, you can use any of the browser and then get into the portal. So now with that, get into the portal and then type in portal.azure.com, right? If you don't have any accounts, you might have to create one. But guys, before I get into the discussion, my recommendation is to not create the account. Guys, I'm repeating, don't create the Azure account unless I guide you to do it. Right. You can see on my screen, I have various different Microsoft Azure accounts. Yesterday, we have gone into this Dallas account, and then we have seen, how a portal looks like. Right. So this is based out of United States, details basically. And I have another account called Prabhu. This is created based out of Australia details. So that means, why I'm saying all this is, in Azure, nothing comes for free, guys. Nothing is free on Azure. There will be some cost associated with each and every service or each and every minute we spend on Azure, or we spend on Azure services rather. Right? So there will be some cost associated. As and when we create a free trial account, Azure will give us some money into the account, right? Wherein we can utilize the services unless our money is being consumed. There are various different ways of creating the account, right? We will discuss about creating the account in later point of time. But what is more important than that now at this point of time is, let's get into an account and then start understanding of creating Azure SQL Server. So for that, I have used the first account that I have on the screen, which is sqldevclass@gmail.com. This looks like a brand new service, right? Or brand new account, rather than the service. But I have cleaned it yesterday, guys, to show you how we can create things from the scratch. Actually, this is very old account. We have it from almost a year. Yeah, I think this is November, right? Yeah, almost a year we have this account. And this is a paid account, basically. Let me show you the cost management. Right. Yes. You can notice this is just for your information, guys, just to, have a understanding how this works. This current month, in this particular account, we have spent $4 till now. From November 1st till today, we have spent $4. If you look at last month invoice, we have paid $4.78, and prior month close to $10, and then prior month $11, $25, $16, $38, right? So we can as well see the history of the payments that we have done for this particular account. So where we can see this? We can see in a service called cost management plus billing. Then you might ask me, right, without getting into any of the Azure services, why I have bought in here. See, like I've said, nothing is free on Azure, right? Understanding the cost is really important on the cloud. See, learning we can do. See, for learning, you have Google, you have YouTube, you have people like Shiva, and then so on, basically. But how you will save money on Azure, how you will understand your cost and how you can manage it is equally important, right? Equally important. And one another point, on your organization account, so let's say you got into a project in your current company or in any other company, in your organization accounts, you won't have access to this page. Guys, you will have access to create the services, maybe access the services, create, update, delete, whatnot, right? That access you might have. But cost management plus billing access, you will not have, most likely, unless you are into Azure IT, right? I mean, or Azure admin basically, right? Otherwise, you will not have access to this page. So that is the reason why the only way of understanding this cost is on your personal accounts. Yes, on your personal accounts. Right. So that's about this cost management in short, but we'll come to this page every other day just to understand how much we are spending and how much we are going to pay to Microsoft and then all that stuff. So good enough to go with. What I'm going to do now is we are going to create our first service, SQL server, and then the database. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the service which is on the screen called SQL databases. Right, guys? So we have a service called SQL databases. Select that particular icon which is on the screen, or one more thing, guys. Sorry. Let's say if you don't have it on this screen, what you have to do? Click on more services. As and when you click on more services, it is loading. right? You could see all the services that are available under Microsoft Azure. So like we have discussed yesterday, Microsoft Azure have 200 plus services. These are all the list of services that we have on Microsoft Azure. I guess. See, may not be today, maybe on Monday, I will, help you understand some of the services that we have on Azure, basically. So that's one thing. We will do it on Monday or Tuesday, based on the time that we get. But for now, again, let me jump onto the, just see, or assume, if you don't have it, see, there is a search also. This is like a global search. Just type in SQL database, right? So here you go, right? So we got the list of services that matches this keyword. Just click on SQL databases, right? So now it says, of course, we don't have any SQL databases to display. Right, guys, can anyone answer what is the use of SQL database? Guys, can anyone, try to answer, what that is?
To store the data in that tabular.
Right? Yeah, perfect. To store the data, right? How to save the data, right? We can as well retrieve the data, back from the storage that we have done, right? Right. So just for that exclusive purpose, we are going to create SQL database. Just click on create SQL database. It is loading. Right. I'll move forward on this. Guys, so here there are some properties that you might have to understand, right? Or the properties that belongs to Azure SQL database. What I'm going to do today is, since our this is our first technical discussion, I'm going to park the definitions of these properties, but we will discuss on Monday, guys. These are important to understand. But to simplify our day number one, our technical discussions day number one, what I'm going to do now is I will go by defaults, right? I'll go by defaults and I'll explain these properties on Monday, right? On Monday. The reason why I am parking this is now our agenda for today is to spend some time on SQL, especially Azure SQL, right? If it is a SQL server, guys, I have SQL server on my local machine, right? So I can as well open it and then spend time. But we wanted to spend our time on Azure basically. So that's why I'm coming, right? So subscription, so Azure subscription 1 is our subscription name. But some properties you have to understand for sure, guys, but some can be parked for Monday basically. The first one is subscription. It is important to understand now, right? So let's understand, guys, what is this subscription? See, I'll get into my favorite example, which is Amazon or Flipkart, right, guys? See, we are 10 plus people in this group, right? So assume again, take the same discussion like yesterday. Assume we are all in one single project, and then assume our company got Flipkart as a project, right? Flipkart or Amazon as a project. Let's park with Flipkart for now. I'll come to Amazon later point of time, because we also need Amazon as an example. So assume we have Flipkart. Our company have got Flipkart as a project. Now tell me, guys. Let me open Flipkart. Right. So see here we have various different categories, starting from grocery, mobiles, fashion, electronics, home and furniture, appliances, and then so on. If I ask you a question in generic, guys, may not be related to our, data engineering. If I ask you a question saying that, see, we are all, I think we are more than 15 members here basically, right? So now let's assume we 15 members have got a requirement to develop the complete Flipkart site, right? I'm repeating the question again, guys. So we were asked to develop this complete Flipkart site. Do you think it is possible? Guys, yes or no, please? No, try to answer me, guys. If we get Flipkart as a project, will we be able to work on the complete Flipkart project?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts, guys? Okay. So I'll take that silence as maybe yes or no. So let me get in. See, the answer is no, right? The answer is no. Flipkart.com is such a massive, website. We need hundreds of people to work on it, and we need a pretty good hierarchy, right? The management hierarchy as well, to consolidate different modules that various different development teams works on. Basically, see, let me explain you in very detailed, manner. Basically, see, grocery has one module, and then mobiles has another module, fashion, and then so on. Basically, right? So, see, these modules will not be developed by one single team in Flipkart, right? So it might be developing by various different small teams, right? So once the development is completed, so we will have a layer about to that development team, and that layer will take care of consolidating various different modules that are being developed by these small teams, right? It works in such a fashion. So now with that given, let's assume, now let me take another question. Now let's assume we got grocery as a module to work with, right? Are we be able to work? Right. So the answer can be yes, because we are here, 10 plus people in the group, right? So working on one single module, will be pretty easy, basically, right? Rather than, pretty easy, it is possible, basically, right? It is possible to work on one single module. So now let's take that example. We got Flipkart as a project, and then we got grocery as a module to work, right? Grocery as a module to work. So now let's take that as an example, and you can assume your subscription as Flipkart, right? We are working for Flipkart projects. You can treat subscription as your project. And the next thing is resource group. Resource group is nothing but what module we are going to work, guys? We are going to work on grocery, right? I'm just taking grocery as a module, guys. Tell me, guys, what is your favorite module out of it? Maybe whichever module gets higher votes, I'll try to take it. Come on, guys, at least answer it. I think we have the answer on the screen. So can you?
Cash.
Okay. Any other thoughts, guys? So what's your favorite module out of it? Okay, so maybe I got fashion as an answer. So let me get inside, and then I'll take fashion as an example. Sorry, Sakshi. Can you repeat it? Okay, so no more further discussion. So we are finalizing with fashion, right? So we will consider fashion as our resource group. I guess that is our resource group. So if you look at the textbook definition, a resource group is a collection of resources that shares the same life cycle, permissions, and then the policies. That means under this particular resource group, now we can create various different services like SQL Server, and then the database, data factory, Databricks, and then so on, basically. Okay, so let's take a look without any delay. Right, so again, I'm repeating, we are working for Flipkart. Guys, Azure subscription 1, treat it as Flipkart, because I can actually rename it, but this account is being used by few other members also, so I don't want to confuse them by renaming the subscription name here. But resource group, yes, we have created a brand new resource group and we named it as fashion. Right, guys, again we'll come back to this discussion, and then I'll try to expand the context, and then I'll help you understand how it is going to look if we are working on various different modules and various different projects. Okay, so that discussions we'll do it in our further sessions. Right, for now, let's assume we are with Flipkart, and then we are working with the module fashion. Right, so now by considering that as our module, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a notepad, and then we'll try to give some name to our database. Right, so I'll say our work here, database name, I'll say fashion DB. Okay, so let me copy it. So this is the name I wanted to have. See, guys, see in the right hand side, you can see
there is no link at all.
Sorry, there is no. Sanjay, what is that? Okay, so in the right hand side, you can do, you can see that it is trying to do some validation. So it have done 4 different validations, saying that database name should not match special patterns and then reserved words. Right, you should not use the word as Azure, and then maybe hash ampersand set. Right, such a special characters and then reserved words you should not use. And the name of the database should not exceed more than 128 characters. And at the same time, you cannot have 2 databases with the same name under that given particular server, basically. So when it comes to the last point, guys, see, no server in the world will accept to have 2 databases with the same name. Okay, it's not at all possible, basically. Right, we also have such a validation on Azure as well, basically. So now we have passed all these 4 different validations, and our database is going to be fashion DB. Right, and then this server, right, database needs a server, right? So we have a drop down. If you, let's assume if you have a if you have a server which is already available on this particular Azure account or the subscription, we can use it, or else we can go and create it from this page itself. See here, create new. Let me click on it. Right, guys. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create a SQL Server database. Okay, this is the page which helps us to input the details that are related to the Azure SQL Server. Right. So I'll give the server name here, and I want this server name as fashion server. Right, so fashion server, and then let me input the name there, and then the location. Right, so guys, I understand. Okay, sorry, yeah, even server name does the validation. There are 3 validations. One, again, no reserved words. It is taking, you cannot have 2 servers with the same name in the Azure subscription, basically. Okay, so that is also passed. And you can notice, you can see here, you cannot start or end a server name with hyphen, or you cannot have 2 hyphens in the 3rd and 4th place of the name. Okay, but this is strange. I don't know. I don't know who will have basically hyphens in exactly 3rd and 4th place. But let's say if you are planning to give a server name and assume if it have hyphens in 3rd and 4th place, by any chance, it's not going to accept. Right? It's not going to accept. So that's the thing, right? So we need to pass the validations. So only then it will let you click on OK. Otherwise, this OK button will be disabled, by the way. Right? So location, very important, to discuss. I'll take some time on Monday, and then I'll help you understand this location as well. right? But for now, let me select India because this account is based out of US, so it have taken East US, by default. So in India, we have 3 different locations, guys. So one being Central India, South India, and West India. But like I've said, we will discuss about this topic on Monday or or Tuesday, basically, right? This is important to understand. And the next one is an authentication, right? See, each and every server comes with some kind of authentication, right? So here we have 3 different types of authentication. Microsoft Entra, the other one is SQL, and then Microsoft Entra, the other one is only SQL authentication. See here, Microsoft Entra is nothing but Azure Active Directory, right? So 2 months back, Microsoft have renamed Active Directory as Entra, basically. I guess Active Directory, we will talk about it, maybe later, because it's not so important, basically, because basically we will have Entra ID only at organization level, right? You cannot have Entra IDs at individual level, but you can have it, but it's not going to make any sense, basically, right? See, see, we all are working in some of the other company, right? See, when we are in company, let's say you logged into your company laptop, so that means you're getting into your company's domain, basically, right? So each and every company will come with a domain, basically, right? So that domain is nothing but the Active Directory, right? But we'll discuss little more about it in our coming sessions. But now, see, we are not going to create any Active Directory, that means Entra on our Azure, on our environments. So we are not going to use it. So what is that we are going to use is, we are going to use SQL authentication. So for that, we need a admin login and then the password. So for that, I'm going to save, the login. I'll say login as fashion login, and then password Azure @123. Okay, fashion login, simply copy it and then paste it. And then as well, yeah, see, even it have done some validation. Let me show you again. You login name must not contain SQL identifier or system name, right? So such a names you cannot use as login. It must not include non-alphanumeric characters. That means special characters, right? Like Russian, those are, kind of, special characters. You can have it. You cannot have it. Your login name must not start with numbers or symbols. Okay. So we need to pass these validations to have a valid login, right? What is next? The password. So I have already typed in, copy, and then let me paste it here. Right. So now you can see the OK button has been enabled. See, in this case, let me remove it. You can notice here, OK button is disabled. As in when I enter the password and each and every validation is correct. See here, password and confirm password must match. In this case, it have matched. So now we got the OK button. So let me click on OK. See, we have just entered details about the server, right? So now you can notice our database is FashionDB and our server is going to be Fashion Server. Like I've said, guys, I'll go with defaults. But I'll explain this again. Just hold on, guys. So here we don't need such a high configuration system for us. What this is and all, I'll explain you. But again, and then networking, no access, default, we'll go with defaults. That is fine. And then here we'll go with sample. What is the sample? I'll show you, shortly. But remember, we have selected sample under data source, which is under additional settings. Okay. So next, click on tags. Tags also we'll look at later. First, let me create it. See, now I got a create, button enabled, guys. See, guys, one takeaway. So one thing you have to understand here is this SQL Server database is going to cost me 5.6 USD per month, right? So that means how much, guys, per day? Right, 5.6, maybe we'll do divided by 30. Okay, divided by 30 is going to be 18 cents into 80 rupees. If I take per day, it is going to charge me 15 rupees INR. Of course, 15 INR basically, right? So that's the charge it comes with. Right, guys, though you use it or you don't use it, Azure is going to charge me 15 rupees per day for this particular one single database. Let's say if I have two databases created, then they are going to charge me 13 rupees, 15 rupees per each database. Right. Anyway, we'll discuss more about this in later point of time. But for now, the account that we are, the database and then the server account that we are going to create is going to charge me $5.6 per month. You can notice here, right? Estimated cost per month it is, right? Not per day or not per hour, not per, any duration. The duration is in months. Let me click on create. Right. So now you can notice Microsoft Azure is deploying our work. So that means it is going to create the server, the database for us on the Azure environment. It will take a minute, guys. So while we are in, any questions? It is taking little long time than expected. Yeah, so now it have started. Yeah, now it must be completed. See, guys, in a creation will take 3-4 minutes, but deletion will happen. Of course, deletion also will. I think deletion will take more time than creation, basically. Okay, but generally it won't take this long. But anyways, yeah, maybe the server that we are deploying, must be busy this time. Right. So now the deployment is completed. So let me show you guys. Now let's get into the resource group, and then fashion is the resource group name we have given. And now you can notice, of course, it is refreshing, guys. We'll just give a second. Database. Right. So now you can notice we have created two different services. Of course, actually we have created three. The first one is SQL database. We have created SQL Server also. Along with that, we have created a resource group. Nice. If you look at the list that we have that we were discussing earlier, resource group is one different service, SQL Server is one different service, and database is another different service. Right? With Azure, these three are three different services. Now we are going to spend more time on resource group, but as and when we progress, we'll try to discuss further on the resource group. But now let's get insight to the database, and then let's try to connect to the database that we have created. Let's get inside. FashionDB is the name of the database, guys, that we have given. Right? What is that? Recommended? No, I don't have any opinion for now. Right. So in the left-hand side, you can see query editor. But again, notice, guys, we are in the browser. We are still in Microsoft Edge browser. See, this is a login we have, and then the password it is asking. Our password is Azure @123. I guess this is the password. But take a look at it. Right? Observe it carefully, guys. I just clicked on OK. See, it is not allowing me to get inside to the database that just I have created, right? See, it is not saying the password is incorrect. It is saying the public access was denied. What does that mean? That means when we are creating the service, we have selected an option called no access. What does that mean is, no one can connect to the database until the access level has been changed. That means what we are going to do now is, let's get into the portal and then change the access policy. Let me show you that. Let's get into the account. Right. So we have the, let's get into the resource group. Let's get into the server. Right. So we are inside our server, guys. Our server name is Fashion Server. And here you can notice there is something called network settings. Right. Get into it. Right. You can notice the public access has been disabled. That means no one can basically access the server. And we have private access. This is a different story, guys. We'll talk about endpoints later. And then we have connectivity. And this is, okay, this is if you have any transport layer security and all. Okay, we will try to discuss about this also later, basically. But anyways, now you can notice the access is completely disabled. No one can access it. As simple as that. Right. So now select the networks, selected networks. And what you have to do is, you need to add your specific IP address here, right? So I'm adding my IP address. Maybe I'll say Siva IP address, right? It is mandatory, guys. It is mandatory if you are going to connect to SQL Server, or if you wanted to connect to SQL Server, you need to have your IP address registered here, right? That's compulsory. So how I can get my IP address? Just go to Google again, just type in my IP address. Right? So get into the first site. And it is loading IPv4. Right? So we can simply copy it. This is my IP address. Guys, this is my internet IP address, by the way. Okay, so simply paste it here. Earlier, it used to identify my IP address and then add it. I don't know why they have changed it, like that. But earlier, it was easy, basically. So let me add the range. What this is and all, I'll explain you later, guys. Right? First, let me click on save. See, I added my IP address. Okay, so that means if we have anyone trying to connect to the server via this IP address, we'll be able to connect now. Take a look. Let's get into the database. Again, no changes here. The password remains the same. The login remains the same. Let me click on OK. Now you can notice it allowed me to get inside. So that means even though you have username and password recorded in our session, you will not be able to log into the system. So that is the reason why I made my password. I typed in my password in public. Now I know the complete credentials, but still you'll not be able to connect. The reason being, I need to add your IP address here. Only then you will be able to access it. Right, guys, I'll give you access to this, maybe on tomorrow or Monday, right? So that you can access my server, basically, my server, which I've created just a moment ago. Now, for the next 10 minutes, let's spend time on accessing the server or accessing the database tables here. So now we can notice we have three different objects in this database. One being tables, the other being views, the other being stored procedures. Right, let me expand the tables object. Expand. You can notice there are some tables that are being created. See, this is a brand new database and we have just created a moment ago. But there are some tables available under this specific database. Guys, can anyone explain what could be the reason and why there are tables in the database? Guys, anyone wants to answer it?
I think Azure identify by the name itself like a fashion, so it assumes that it's belong to the.
No, but thanks for answering. Absolutely, Avinash. Yes, perfect. See, when you have observed, if you might have observed, when we are creating the database, we selected the sample as a database, right? We selected sample. That is the reason why we got sample tables here, right? That is why we got the sample tables here. That means these tables are created by Azure for us to do some research and development. Guys, again, this is only for your research. You should not use this data for your production environments, right? So that's a prerequisite here, right? You cannot use it for production. Right. Now we got the answer, right? So we can query the data and then view the data, like SQL. Now we can write in our basic SQL queries here to view the data that is available in any of the tables that we have in the left-hand side section. So I'll take random table sales LT dot address. Okay, I just use the tab and then I fill it. So we are going to view data that is available under this particular address table. Yeah, so you can notice, guys, that's the problem with this editor. See how hard it is to view the data. You can always see only 3 records, not more than that, right? You cannot even expand the section and then so on, right? That's how it will be on the query editor, right? On the query editor, you can see here this is called as query editor, and then we are accessing this query editor from the portal via a web browser, right? You can notice, but still we were able to query the data successfully, and then we are able to view it, right? We can query the data, right? So I mean each and every table have some data, and also, guys, these are not random tables, by the way, right? These are not random tables. These tables have relationship and it have some meaning inside, right? Maybe I'll try to spend some time on it tomorrow as well, but now for the next 5 minutes we are going to see what we can do then writing the queries here. Okay, see here we have some sections like run, as in when I click on run, you can notice it is showing up the data. But if you see here, save query, so let's say if we wanted to save this query, see here, as in when I click on save, this query has been created as a SQL file, and you can notice the file has been saved in my download section, right? Automatically, whatever you write in this specific query one editor will be exported as a SQL file so that you can save it somewhere on your local. Let's say if you wanted to run the same queries again, maybe on tomorrow, or as in when you log into the query editor again, you can copy it from the .sql and then you can paste it and then you can play around. Play around in the sense you can do your analytics on top of the data. So that's one thing. And here we have export data as See here, that's the beauty of these tools, guys. You can actually export this data as a CSV. As simple as that. See, there's a drop down, simply drop down it and then click on CSV. Not only CSV, guys, we can export the data as JSON and as well as XML as needed. Right? As needed, we can export it. Let me show you by exporting it to a CSV file. See, fraction of seconds, we have data being exported as CSV, and this have saved on my personal machine or on the machine where I have clicked on this export data. Okay, so let me click on open file, and you can notice here the data has been exported into CSV. See how quick it is, basically, right? How quick it is. And you can notice, since it is a CSV stands for, guys, comma separated value. So that means here address ID is one column, address line 1 is second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column. That means each and every column has been separated with comma, basically. Right? Tomorrow we will discuss about data formats also, right? So there I'll help you understand what kind of data that we have on the screen, and then so on, basically. Right, guys? Okay, and also tomorrow we will also discuss about some of the Azure services that we have, right? So which is pretty much needed for you to understand, basically. Okay, so anyways, tomorrow's story is for tomorrow. See, the point you have to know here is, see how simple we can export data into a data format, and then how we can also analyze the data out of SQL. Right? Since we have data as a CSV file, we can share it between, and then we can perform analytics on top of the data, and then we can understand it. Right, guys? So that's it for today. Right? So tomorrow, what we'll discuss is what we can do little more on query editor, and how we can access various different objects. See here, we can see only 3 objects, but actually SQL Server will have more than that. We'll have more than that. How we can access the other objects outside of query editor, and then we will try to understand some of the concepts of Azure. Okay, guys, that is all from my side, right? Any questions from any one of you?
Sure, to share the skills.
Sorry, what is that you want?
Skills required to become a data.
See, understanding the data is good enough to go, right? The prerequisite is, right? So you named it as skills that are needed to learn Azure Data Engineer. Rather than that, let me reframe it. The prerequisite is to get into data engineer, right? Understanding of the data is good enough to go, basically, right? The reason being, see, if you have SQL knowledge, it is an added advantage. If not, anyway, we are going to spend some time on SQL. You can as well, practice in parallel and then get an understanding on SQL, right? But other than that, I don't see any prerequisites that are needed. But one thing I would say, you have to dedicate time for practice. That is pretty much needed. So maybe I'll say that is a skill that you need to have. The skill that you need to have to survive on data engineer is to dedicate some time. Think out of the box, or start thinking out of the box, right? These two are pretty much needed to get onto data engineer. Other than that, with respect to the technologies, might not be no.
Right? No, sure. I'm asking what are the skills need to learn to become a data engineer. I'm not asking the prerequisites.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. My goodness. Yeah. It's my mistake. Let me again pop up. These are all the skills you need to become a data engineer.
Oh.
Does it answer? Yeah. But of course, see, even if you have 100 different services, it might fall under data engineer, but these are all the various different services that are at least needed to know, basically, right?
And one question after completion of work, so how many years its experience it covered up to in resume?
That I'll answer you, Madhav. Maybe this is too early to discuss about it. Let me travel some days along with you. Let me understand, how easy you are able to take these services, how hard you are able to take the services, and then so on. And accordingly, maybe I'll give a suggestion to you, not only to you, to all the members, that we have in the group here. Right? Yeah. Because even you have to understand, right? So what is that we are going, see, we have just seen, the services that we are going to cover, but what actually we have inside it, right? Even you have to travel on the services for a few days. Only then you can, get into the comfortable zone, and then maybe I can answer, at that point of time, if you have any questions with respect to the resume building, basically. Yeah, guys. If not, thank you each one of you. Have a great day. I'll catch you tomorrow at the same time and at the same place. Thank you, guys.